Hector, that's fine. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Fiona Robertson. I'm here predominantly to help you understand how easy things can go when you create your own reality, when you set things up. So, I'm always talking about that. I'm always helping you to remember that you get to create your own reality by what you're thinking and what you're saying. I learned years ago that there's nothing that creates faster, manifests faster than what you're thinking and what you're feeling. So tonight, the real the theme tonight is about embrace your own divine guidance. Now, sometimes, hi Jasmina, sometimes what we do is we get stuck in a little bit of being human. So that's what I wanted to just address today. So the purpose is that we allow ourselves to get down into our energetic source, getting into our bodies, allowing our heads to get out of the way. We come down into our bodies. We come down into our dog's going to go out now. We come down into our heart and we come down into our belly. Now, you know of gut intuition, you know that your belly can be this wide open space, but often when we feel into things, we realize that the belly's still tense. Okay, so all I'm inviting you to do, just as we start this session today, is don't try and take everything in from your head. Just relax your way through it. Relax your shoulders. Don't let the dog bark. No, reverse. Sorry, guys. No. My old dog, she just, as soon as you want to do something quietly, she barks. Need to put that in my creation zone as well, don't I? Anyway, so what we're talking about here is we're getting ourselves into this place, into the conduit. You've often heard me talk about the conduit, where we're stepping to one side, we're putting the human to one side. So now when I'm speaking to you and we're going through these processes today, you're taking them from your heart and soul and your body, your belly. You're not taking them from trying to understand that and listening and listening, listening and taking notes and how does that apply to me? Just like let that all be absorbed into your body, into your cells. It's not for your head. So just allow yourself to soften so that you can soak more information up. Okay. The softer that we are, the more we can expand, the more we can absorb. It's think of yourself like either a dry, crusty old cloth, and it can't soak up any moisture. It can't soak anything up. So the softer we are, the more softer and accepting we are of, oh, now there's an idea I haven't thought about before. Well, that's easy. That's interesting, isn't it? Being curious. So, like, we've got a softer approach to things rather than saying, I want to understand how to do this and trying to find what even happens with humans is we still want what all the linear steps are. We still want the one, two, three, four, and five. Okay. The human was taught that. But most of us who've incarnated at this particular time have decided or have a way of thinking that is very absorbent and empathic, and we think in circular motions. Okay, we think in loops and intuitively we get information that's coming through. Whereas the human, you have to notice how the human works, and we're going to go through that a little bit today. The human likes to go, these are the three keys that I need to know. These are the three steps that I need to go. These are the three mistakes that I need to know. So anyone out there who's coaching you to understand those kind of things, they're only coaching you for your human. They're not coaching you for your soul. Even though, yes, sometimes when I start coaching someone, depending who they are, well, I also have to go through the steps. So manifest with the dragons, we do go through the steps that the dragons have shown us, but each one is intertwined with the other one because we have to understand that everything is located. So if you've listened to the dragon messages on the Mondays, you'll notice that maybe you pick one card and it resonates so much with you, but then you'll listen to the other ones and it kind of gives it more volume and more depth. Because you think, oh right, okay, well that one links in with that one, and that's what I'm understanding as I'm keeping reading these dragon cards. They just keep they grow with you. So you have to know that anything that you're doing, your business, your life, it will grow with you at your pace, depending on how you think about it and how you work. So bring your breath down into your body. Feel your breath really fill up your lungs deeply, slowly, 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 and bring yourself all the way down so that you can invite in at this moment. It'll make you feel relaxed. So you might burp or yawn or need to stretch. That's fine. But you're inviting in your soul. You're actually saying, I invite you in. You're inviting in your cosmic team. If you believe in the frequency of the dragon team, my team, any of the dragons that are out there, they can come through. You can invite the source, higher wisdom, and you are just saying, be with me now so that I can understand more of what all of this journey is all about. You can say a prayer and put a prayer out there. Let this space be where the human ends and the soul begins. Thank you so much for this event, for this time, for reaching parts of me that I've never reached before, for understanding the transmission, for getting the activation, for understanding and feeling into what's actually happening on another level for me. So very quickly then, I just want to go through, so you can just listen to this and your soul can give you nudges and maybe you'll feel vibrations and sensitivity and you'll understand more as we're talking about this and you'll get aha moments. So we've got the human identity character versus the soul identity and character. So there's two different operating systems. Now you could probably go, yep, I know that, but it's just very interesting to sort of reiterate it so that when you are in that mode, when you're in that state during your day or something's happening or something's triggering you, you're like, oh, am I in my human state thinking about this or am I in my soul state? I've had instances where I've been in the garden, I've been complaining about things, and the dragons come in and they say, that is such a human state to be in, Fiona. And I'm like, oh, I know. Oh God, I'm gonna have to change the way I'm thinking then. I've got to have to change the way I'm doing things. So when you're in your human state, you're in survival mode. You're like, how do I pay the bills? How do I get this done? How do I move house? How do I find somebody to buy it? How do I find clients? How do I blah blah blah? How do I, get someone else to wash the dishes for me? How do I get my car fixed? You're logical, and normally we're overthinking. And you probably don't even know that you're overthinking because you've just been so damn used to having so many thoughts. Now, the dragons have said to me, we can't get through to you to give you the ideas, to give you the inspiration, to give you the intuitive hits because you're so full and so blooming busy of worry, planning, objectifying, obsessed about something, in a complaint, in a story, just talking, 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 talking. And there's just a whir of words going on, and nothing, no information can get through. So, what we also do when we're in the human state is we micromanage. We try and control everything. You feel that you're alone to do everything. Why have I got to do everything on my own? This is such a waste of time. Why am the only one that does this? Also, you've got fears about money. You were taught that money was hard, money was limited. There's only so much that you are valued at. In other words, this is how much you will get paid per hour. Success is limited. You've got to earn and work hard to get the money in so that you can survive. So you can see the human is all about survival. You will also have doubt. If I'm telling you certain things of how you create your own reality, how you make things easier for yourself, your head will just go, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. Just doubt comes in. So the first time I got a really, really juicy bit of information, it was about selling my house years ago. And I'd been asking questions to the house, like, okay, what do I need to do to sell you? How do I need to change to sell you? I was telling the story, I put it on my phone. And then one day it dropped, it downloaded, and I got the image of how I was to sell the house. Fiona, the human, just goes, you crazy, that's mad. It's never going to work. But I knew I had to do it. And of course, as I did it, within 2 days, the house was sold because it was like now. But there are some certain things to help you come into your soul identity that really helps this a lot. Now, one thing that helped me massively was silence. Okay. Sitting and being in silence. Now, I used to go and sit down by the river, no phone, no notepad, which is so out of character for me at the time because I was an overdoer, an overthinker, and an overplanner. No dogs that were splashing around and interfering with me. I just sat in silence. That is something that is so, so valuable. I vowed to myself that I would just keep on doing it because it was like having an affair. It's like, oh, I've got time to go down and sit by the river for a couple of hours. But then life got in the way and I stopped doing it. Do I still meditate and do my in silence for half an hour every day on the settee at the back there? Yes. And then when I can't or when I don't, when life gets too busy, things kind of start to fall apart a few days later. So connecting in and building up that relationship, bloody dog, building up that relationship with yourself, your inner self is absolutely paramount to be able to then ask the questions, to be able to get the responses, to be able to listen to the guidance, to see the signs, to translate what is going on. Let me put her outside. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm back. So, silence. Building the relationship in with your soul so that you can understand the intuition that's coming through makes it paramount. If you can think of any relationship that you're in, and if you only called on that relationship when you needed something, what do you think is going to happen? It's not going to be that happy, are they? Like, oh God, you only call me when you've got a problem. You don't want that kind of relationship with yourself or with your soul, with the spirit world, with God, and I say even further than God. This is like your cosmic parent. This is your, galactical, multi-dimensional being that we are, because we go from here, we go from human, and then we start, believing that there's something bigger than us out there that makes things happen. And you start creating magic. You start seeing what I call practical magic. You then start believing in the universe and putting things out there and law of attraction. And so you're getting a sort of a wider view and you're seeing things differently. You're understanding things differently. You're becoming more conscious. Then you invite God to come in and play and source to come into play. You don't really know quite how to call it. Then all of a sudden you kind of see guides and angels, or for me, dragons, and then other beings. And then you realize, oh my God, is that there's a whole cosmos out there that's I can see and hear, and you become a little bit like a ninja. You never know who you're going to meet when you go on a trip, on a journey, on a meditation. You just think, "Whoa, I wonder if something else is going to come in. Who's there?" There's because you're widening the spectrum of what you understand of your consciousness. And that's what we're all here for. Because you and I and everyone who watches this, who knows me, we have lived several hundreds of lives before. And within our soul are all of those lives. And that's why we are so gifted right now. And it's a question of us remembering how gifted we are. So your intuition is sparked. You can operate in the human, you can operate in the soul, and the soul is your intuition. Your soul language comes through you, and we describe it as intuition. Now, intuition is the visuals that you get, the sounds, the voices, the sounds, the number plates, the numbers, the times, the music that comes through for you, the conversations that come through for you because you've just been thinking about something. You will understand so much more, and then you'll get your own understanding and language about the signs that start coming through for you. Does that all make sense? Say yes. What you also need to understand is your soul, part of source, part of God, part of the cosmos, is already in the prosperity frequency. It is already hugely abundant. It doesn't even look at money like it's limited. Like most of us think, oh, love is limited and money's limited and I can only have so much. But you can see how you're expanding your view of the world from law of attraction to inviting in the universe, to inviting in God, to inviting in the cosmos, to inviting in yourself as a multidimensional being across all time and space, not just past lives, but whatever planet you've come on from before. I mean, that kind of mind blowing. And then you kind of think, well, why on earth would I even think that money would even be a problem? But you just have to sometimes see the thoughts behind the thoughts that you're having about money, prosperity, and why you're here. So with your soul, things become a little bit easier. So I was talking to Mel about this just before, like how can we make our moving house or selling our house or getting the divine guidance or getting your questions answered or finding the relationship or turning a relationship around that's not working out for you. How do we change all of that? The soul is able to help you do all of that because you just start telling a different story. Or was it last week we lent into the 3D world, your present world, and then we lent into the more spiritual side. So you have both at both times. So like you've got the human world and then you've got, oh my God, I can just go into creation and the truth of everything. I could just go into that and I can feel my way forwards. So if you've got situation that's about to happen, you can just start to tell a different story about it. And you tell the story like, well, this has already happened. This actually went really, really well for me. And I'm really enjoying this. And this happened and that happened. And then you can add in more detail. You can add in what it smelt like, what you were wearing, how you felt about it. So your thoughts and your feelings become more integrated about how that's all working. When when I wanted to sell another house of mine, one of the things that I was doing, but I had a very, very clear imagination of all the boxes being stacked up in the living room and a cup of tea on there, and I could hear the echoes in the house. There were no curtains on the walls, and I was waiting for someone to come with a van to put everything in. Was that actually the truth? No. It was just in my imagination, but it allowed things to go forwards and allowed then someone to come and look at the house and buy it and love it. All these things about creating your own reality are what count because it grounds it. It allows you to welcome in the opportunities and see where to go next. You might get guidance. Oh, put your house on a market here, or you're going to get a call there, tidy the house up. A lot of things come through. So you are the bridge between the guidance coming through, the soul coming through, and how the human is going to act and respond to all of this. So this is what we're talking about, your soul identity. So this is where the human, as you see yourself, ends, and you start moving forwards as the soul. You start moving forwards that I'm connected to God. I'm connected to the universe. I've got so much information coming through. I can access more information. I just need to ask the right questions. I just need to act a different way. I need to create new stories. I can create my own universe, my own reality. What happens is when you're reacting to something, and because you're so used to it, you don't feel it as the human. And if I feel into someone and I say, okay, so what are you feeling about that? I'll feel the tightness, or I'll feel the breath being held, or I'll feel the coldness on the skin, or the fact that their hands are maybe clasped and clenched. So there's often a rushing feeling, a deadline. I've got to prove myself. There's a lot of mental looping that goes on. So that's when somebody is really coming from the human mode. So you will be able to feel yourself do that when you get more practice. So you'll be able to sense and touch and get the temperatures and get the signs. And, outside events can also come through and be soul interventions for you. So for a client of mine that's in one of my groups, two very near misses in her car. She absolutely had no idea what was going on. So We asked so that we could get delivered what the message was. The message turns out, and how did you feel when you had that near miss? Oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. Okay, so finally the soul's saying, you know I'm here, so why aren't you calling on me more often? You know what I can do for you, so call on me more often. Include me in your day. Even though she's learning this stuff, it had been like, oh, right, yeah, I know that, but not actually involving the soul at the time. Another one of my clients, so something else coming in from the outside, again to do with her car. The car often, your car is often, it's an extension of you, like your business is an extension of you. But she'd had an accident in her car and she had to change her car, but she wasn't understanding what the message was. The message was, what you have been doing. And it sounded really awful for the dragons to say that, but that's failing. You know about this for long enough now, but the way you've been responding, the way you've been acting, it's a fail. Unless you change something, that's a fail. And it seems really tough and brutal for the dragons to come through and say that, but they're just like, what signs do you need us to send you for you to start doing the work and start believing in yourself and knowing that you have so much support around you? So I'm helping you see that the um, making the invisible visible. And how do we do that? We're looking out for signs, we're realizing our consciousness, we're feeling it in our belly, we're feeling our heart expanding. So when we're in the God zone, or when we're in the conduit, or when we're, in the life force energy that's flowing through us, how do we feel? Way more relaxed. Our breathing changes. You can slow down, but things can happen really rather quickly. We are expanded. We feel a lot more sitting up straight. Most definitely, people feel taller and stronger when they're in that particular energy. You have certainty about the evidence that's coming through, like, oh, I wonder why that happened. I wonder why this happened. I wonder how I could change this. You have a very calm knowing about you. And if you could see yourself in, let's just say, 2 or 5 years' time, knowing that you're operating in Utopia, so your soul is coming through, you would be walking with a sway in your step and much slower, much more confident about how things are working out for you. So you've got that absolute certainty going on. What happens also, and maybe you realize that like you can get out of your head. So you leave all of the stuff that's going on in here and bringing it down into your body. And sometimes it can get stuck and just stop in the heart, which is fine for a while. But then it can go lower down. It can go lower down into your body and your belly just completely relaxes. So can you think what that is when everything just relaxes? How would you describe that in your human? What would you use as words that just kind of go, once your head's empty, your heart's expanded and it's chilled and your belly relaxes? What would you say was that? So, like, I'm just looking for a particular phrase because I want to just take this a little bit further. Would you have any idea what that might be for yourself? Peace. Okay. It most definitely is a peaceful feeling. It's actually the state that most people are terrified of the most. Letting go. If you can just feel into that just for a second, so feel the peace, feel your belly just relaxing. Anything could happen and it wouldn't irritate you. Your breathing is steady and even. Your heart is steady and even. It's like your belly and the whole human body just unzips and melts away. You could be in the puddle on the floor looking up at yourself or looking up at a situation just going, I don't need to be bothered about that at all. So wouldn't you now just describe that as you have completely and utterly let go? You've let the human pass. You've let the importance of all the stuff that you felt was just so necessary for you to get your fingers in on, fingers in all the pies. You've just let that all go. This is where you can call in your soul and call in your source and call in your spiritual team and just say, this is what I'm dealing with, but this is how I want to feel about it. This is the help I need. If you're showing your spiritual team the end result of what Jasmina just said was peace, what I'm explaining to you is letting go, freedom. Someone else might actually say it's a sense of freedom. If you can show your spiritual team, if you can show God, this is the state I want to live from. There's nothing easier for them to bring you. But it's the human that gets all snarled up because we want the pat on the back or the appreciation or whatever it is that says everything, I did this and I did that. And so like your ego gets involved. But imagine if you could live from this place where your channels of soul guidance is working. You understand the images, the timelines, the future flashes. You get the feeling that just knowing, you know that a download is coming. You've asked for it and you're getting it. You're getting the resonance. You're getting the resonance of like, oh, that sounds so good. And my heart is singing. You've got the inner voice, the inner communication, your higher self is beginning to come through to you because no, not just silent in your head, but you've let go. So as you're in this state right now, I'm going to ask you some questions and then just so you can see what comes through. What does your soul know about this? And just let her answer you, maybe one word or two words. What would I choose if I wasn't afraid? And just breathe into that and let the first answers come or let everything just open up for you. Got a couple more questions. Where have I been tolerating dullness and effort? You may find with that question, your stomach starts to contract a little bit because we're talking about dullness and effort and tolerating. So that will give you the hint of like when you felt that particular frequency and where you've allowed yourself to stay in that state. And the last question for now is like, what is my soul prepared to let go of? You might find that it's an ID, an identity, a habit, a story. So just keep in that state for as long as you can. You're not in your head. You've dropped down past your heart. You've dropped into your belly, concentrating on your breathing, right in the center of your belly button. And then just think about those questions. And if you want, you can put the answers in the chat, any answers that came back, or you could just come on live and just say what came up for you. What did your soul say to you? What came through? You can type it or you can say it, whatever's quicker for you. And see if you're doing that, you can just keep that feeling on the inside of you. It feels like pleasure and satisfaction, and it's always available. When you're in that state, it's always available. So there's a belief and a trust that you can have that. That can be very much part of your life. And what did your soul say she'd be prepared to let go of? Yes, it's a choice to come back to it. And that's kind of the message that Tara sends us often is like, it's your choice, the frequency and the decisions that you make. It's your choice what you want to feel. Remember what I was saying before, like if you wake up in the morning and you want to tell yourself the story that you're poor, you're broke, nothing's working out for you, God, the universe, cosmic parents will just go, okay. Or if you choose, everything's going right for me. This is just amazing. I'm having so much fun, so much pleasure. I've sold my house and my business is booming, and I just feel absolutely fantastic. I'm just at peace with everything. God will go, okay. You choose the vibration and the frequency that you will be in. Yes, and it's always your choice to come back to it. You can feel things in the outside world. Jasmina, it's a very familiar way of functioning through soul. Well, of course, because it's a remembrance. If you, this is my point, like if you knew who and what you were, you would you would remember that and it would be a way that you functioned. Absolutely. And it does feel like home because it's like, oh gosh, if I could just live like that and not get my knickers in a twist at every single thing that goes on in the human world. If I knew that my human was taken care of, but we've been educated that it's not, that we have to get our fingers in there and get organized and operate and schedule and plan. And now soul is prepared to let go of resentment and frustration and focus on pleasure and satisfaction within. Ooh, over focusing on the external experience. Perfect. Perfect. And wouldn't you want to live like that every day? Wouldn't you want to get into the habit and remember, rather than saying what you don't want, you go back to what it feels like. The pleasure and the satisfaction is always available. And then that becomes your obsession, that becomes your focus. So that goes back to Raphael, which is the dragon about your focus. And he's not asking you to really focus on dates and history and those kind of things that we were educated to focus on. But he's saying focus on the feeling, focus on the frequency, focus on what it is you really want as the outcome, as the end result. So then, Mel, that would be the pleasure and the satisfaction. And then your human goes, well, that's a bit too bloody easy, isn't it? What, was that easy? So, I mean, I've been doing this for years, and one of the first things I remember doing this with a girl, we were playing with this and working with this and getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And we were like, oh, can't be that easy. Come on. Because we've been educated that it's hard work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. We've got to do things in incremental steps. Whereas, what if the only thing that's going to come back to you is exactly the frequency that you're feeling? And God goes, or the universe goes, your cosmic parents goes, okay, I'll match that. Which makes it so easy and so simple and so pleasurable. And that then becomes your home. So you can drop into your chest, you can take all the information out of your head in a breath, can let the breath go all the way down to your feet, all the way through to the earth, all the way down. You can loop there in the center of Gaia, in the center of the earth. We can bring that energy all the way up through our body. It can loop around our body, and we can send that, shoot that information up, life force energy, back up into the heavens, back up into source until we're tethered there. We're tethered in between, like the trees. We're a conduit of energy. We're a battery, a walking battery. And what better is to decide what that battery is going to be emanating. And you can release your human identity over and over and over again. You can imagine yourself unzipping yourself like I did when I went down to meet the dragons. I just left myself, the human version of me flopped on the stairs, and the spirit part of me just wafted down to speak to the dragon. And all the worries and all the stuff that goes on in the human world just drops to the floor. You step into your soul frequency and you can meet who you need to meet. All right, I'll deal with that in a second, Mel. If you can come out of your human, and then we can look at that, because with that there are ways that you can control, and not control, but you can create a new version of an old relationship, and it will start to look different. The only person who can change anything is you. And when you're in this state of not being in your head, you've come down into your chest, you've come down into your body, you feel tethered between the ground and the cosmos and the heavens. That's when you can ask your questions. I've done readings and guidance for people for a long time, and I used to just go straight into it and just kind of go, oh, hello. I never allowed myself, ooh, I dropped down, you see, and it's not doing it. Okay, that'll have to do. Um, and then sometimes when you're doing your readings and your guidance, you're coming then some from your head. So I often, when I was going there, I was like, all right, I went into that too quickly. I didn't drop down. I didn't. So then I started to do finger holds to show myself, this is me. This is my energy. I've come into my energy. I've let go of the human. I've come into my soul energy. And then when I wanted to read for the person, I did a different hand hold so that I was out of my energy, but I was in their energy. So sometimes if you're wanting to create this neutral space that we tapped in on last week as well, so if you're embracing your own divine guidance, if you're embracing your own soul, spirit, sometimes you need to be able to do something to show yourself, now I'm in my spirit. Now I'm connecting and talking with my spirit, coming from my spirit, so that you can go back into that pleasure and satisfaction state. Does that make sense? Just simple things. So like you can do an image if you're vision, or you can do the breathing, but you feel the sensation and you feel your belly melting. So like that's why we went into that a little earlier on. And from there you can ask your soul, so what message are you bringing me today? And one of the main ones is like, well, how do I need to change in order to get to receive my mission, to go further with my mission, for example. So let's talk about a real world application then, which we've got written in the chat there. Two relationships of mine. One was my son. If you've been around me for a while, you know that I've told this story before. When he was 7, when I became a single mum, he was incredibly angry. But he was probably also feeding off my dissatisfaction and anger as well. But he would throw things. He would not eat his dinner. And if it was spaghetti, he would want me to cut it into tiny pieces. And I'm just like, no. And I was just obstinate. And my other son used to pick up his plate and go and eat on his own in the kitchen. It was just a very horrible situation to live in. And I was just, I was on tenterhooks the whole time. And it was like, oh my God, it's just like being with his dad. It was just, I was on eggshells the whole time. And I went, right, okay. The only person who can change this is me. What am I going to have to do? When you tell a different story about your finances, your health, your house, your child, your relationship, you tell a different story, you start to feel differently about that person. And did I have to be a little bit delusional? Yes, I did. So the story I started telling about my son was he is so sweet. He is cuddly. He eats his dinner. He does his homework without arguing. He helps me in the kitchen. He doesn't lose his coat at school. He'd come home with all his equipment that he left with. He's friendly, he's happy, and I just kept telling the story of just like how happy he was and how great he was and how helpful he was around the house and that he ate his dinner and that we played games together and we sang songs together and he did his homework and he was just a very, very sweet, happy boy. Was he at the time? No, he was an angry little shit. And he was just causing me so much angst. But I had to change the story I was telling. He started to feel that, how I was thinking about him, and the energy, the link between us, the energy changed. And he mirrored back to me what I was thinking about him in the new state. Until one night, about a week after I'd started doing this, I was putting him to bed and I just was suddenly struck how sweet he was. We'd both sat on the bed with his younger brother. We'd told a story. We'd laughed. We'd done squash and squeeze. We'd played games and rolled around on the bed. And I put him to bed, and he just went to bed. And he, yes, mummy, yes, mummy. Very, very sweet. And I was like, oh, wow, wow. And I was so emotional. I was crying. He said, why are you crying, mummy? And I said, because I've got my little boy back. If I ever changed my story and said he's a little shit, guess what happened? Yeah, he became a little shit. It's the stories that you tell that make a massive difference. I had to do this with my ex, their father, as well, because for a long time it was always, I can't give you any money if I haven't got any money. My pockets are empty. And I was like, holy crap, you brought these boys into the world and you just won't support me or them. Like, how can you do that? I was angry. And I went, the only one who can change this is me. I'm going to have to just change my story about him. So I did. And I started telling, I even made a recording of it on my phone. I don't know whether you've often seen me say this. I make a recording on my phone. This is to put into play a new relationship between me and blah, blah, blah. He is so generous. He's so kind. He's such a great dad. He's so thoughtful. He's doing really well in work, and he wants to give me rolls of cash, and he wants to help me. And I was like, God, I don't even really need the rolls of cash. I'm perfectly capable of doing this for myself. But I'd been waiting for someone else to change so that I could feel happy. But the whole point of the soul intervention that I was being shown was the other person doesn't need to change. It was me that needed to change. A few weeks later, he came to pick up the boys and he gave me a roll of cash. Why would it be a roll of cash if I hadn't created that? And in my imagination, I'd seen him giving me a roll of cash and I put it in my left pocket. Hardly anybody has rolls of cash these days. It was actually a roll, a wad of notes. And when I started getting evidence like that, I'm like, I am the creator. I made that happen. And this is the whole point. This is the whole point of how we go through our lives, how we choose that we are the creator. It's a quantum shift, what your soul wants to tell you. If you want to live like this every single day, guided, supported, soul-led, this is what I'm doing in Manifest with the Dragons. This is what I'm doing in the Dragon Portal. I'm helping you to devise the questions. I'm helping you to change the stories that you're telling. And sometimes we're very, very resistant to telling those stories. I certainly was resistant to telling a good story about my ex. I was like, no, the little bastard, he can suffer. I really enjoyed throwing daggers at him because he was being such a useless arse, and in my terms. Of course, you needed to hear it. Going to play that game, keep the light and easy. Yeah, exactly. But that's why I'm doing it. And I'm telling you the stories that really, really happened for me to show you, wow, that's how that happens. And then you just get to play with it. There are so many different ways of like how we create our reality, but we get stuck in the ways we've been educated. And there's so many business coaches out there saying, oh, you have to post on social media and you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do funnels and you need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that hard. We're overthinking it. If we're overthinking it, our clients are going to go, whoa, God, if she's overthinking it, it's really difficult to get through to her. And we're not creating the kind of clients or the story in the stories that we've got. And this is the whole point of like what I'm doing. I'm seeing where you're at, what thoughts you've got. We're clearing the thoughts you've got. We're changing the stories so that they feel comfortable for you until we can up level those stories. And they're not, like that. They're like, they really are kind of where we're tuning them up. We're telling a different story. Like, okay, are you ready to, broaden that bandwidth and change that story? Or is that story working for you? One of the reasons some things fell apart for me is because I just wasn't telling the new story. Got my house in France, I've got my kids, got my partner, I'm working, I'm doing the home detox box and the retreat. I stopped telling stories. I stopped creating. I started complaining. And then everything went pop. Sometimes, I don't mean to say this Mel to upset you, sometimes we have outgrown certain people, certain places, certain houses, certain ways of doing business. And that sometimes is your soul that's saying, uh, this has to happen. And I think you laughed at me last week because I said I'd had 4 relationships of 9 years because I've outgrown all of them. But then again, I do know that I don't mean it to be being mean, I chose below me. Does that make sense? A relationship that I could manage, a relationship that I could control, a relationship but it didn't fulfill me in the end. In the end, I was pulling someone else up by the bootstraps. I was being their coach rather than them being an equal. So yeah, I think you look sometimes and you look back and you go, oh right, I get why I was in that relationship or why I chose that particular person. And why we've got the parents we've got sometimes as well. I think one of the first persons I changed my story about was my mother. If you've not heard this story as well, because it used to be an absolute nightmare. Yeah, no, exactly. That's all you can do, Mel. It's all you can do. I'm not going to say it out loud just in case somebody's around, but that's all you can do. It's like just you've got to do your best. So like you tell your best story and see where it lands, see where it goes. So I used to have to tell this story about my mother, and I moved out of home quite early at 19 because my parents got divorced. And I didn't want to live with her, so I found somewhere else to live, even though it was like a terrible flat. And then when I went home, or when I went, she came to visit. Then when I got another house, it was just awful. It was just like having the most toxic person in my environment. Either we got on like a house on fire, but that meant I had to change, or I had to do an awful lot of setting up before somebody came. This is way before I knew how to create my own reality, way before the dragons came in. I was playing with this. And I used to say to myself, Mum and I are going to get on like a house on fire. She's here for a whole week, which is a long time if you think about it. And she used to get in there and do the ironing and like, oh, this is dirty. And I would just say, we just get on like a house on fire. We have such a good laugh. We have so many good conversations. I can still go out and do certain things and have certain things, but I did notice the times that I didn't set myself up before I was in her company, all hell would break loose. And I'd have to stand on the grass and just kind of go, oh my God, I've just got to get out of here. It's like I've got to detox from this particular kind of character. So, so from a very mid young 20s, I was doing that. I was changing my relationship, but I also noticed that when I didn't do it, she would respond to how I was thinking. If you want to live like this, if you want to be able to live like this every single day, you do need to do the work. You do need to do things in a different way. And it's massive, huge, huge consequences as to how you can live your life and how you can put things into play. And if you think about every single aspect of your life, you can tell a different story about. But sometimes you're like, I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what it is that I want. And that's sometimes where we have to do the work. And that's why business for spiritual women can be sort of, a bit clunky because you're like, oh, I don't really know if I want that. I don't know if I want that. I don't know how to articulate it. But that's where I come in to kind of draw all that out of you to actually make sure that that sits and gels with you on a very firm basis so that you're happy saying that. It feels good in your body. And I'm always testing. How does that feel? How does it feel? How does it feel? Do you have any questions about how this is landing for you? Or making as clear as mud, as clear as day? Yeah, getting clearer. Good. Excellent. Jasmine, are you feeling better this week?
Yes, I will say because I don't want to. Um,
All right.
yeah, after you shared last time that it might have to do something with the grief,
Yeah,
I went there and just express. I was just talking about all the grief of anything coming to my mind, and now I'm far more better. It's gone, but the
yeah,
so
yeah,
yes, this today is like such an awesome reminder how much, we just need to set time to be with ourselves with no distraction around. So we can actually, just what you say, hear actually through all that noise, our intuition or guidance or whatever we need to hear because
yeah,
there's too much noise in everyday life. Yeah.
yeah. Silence is absolutely golden. But of course, we don't do it because it's just we've just if you think about it, we've got so much going on. But if you felt it in your body, you've got a visceral experience of where you are going. So like many people will listen to guided meditations, frequency and people talking, but if you're not getting into that peaceful place in your body, I think it's still a distraction. I know it's still a distraction. So your soul isn't able to come through the dragons or your guides, or you're not able to hear the messages from your guides and things because one, maybe you've not asked the right questions. Two, because it's still noise. Cool. Let me know how you get on this week. Start playing. Let me know how this is going for you. Telling a new story and being sitting in the quiet spaces. Let me know kind of the things that you are taking on from the classes that I've been putting out there. And I'm going to love you and leave you and wish you a pleasant evening. And Mel, a pleasant move. Everything's going to go so good for you. And I'm speaking to you next week anyway, aren't I, Mel? So that's kind of cool. All right.
Thank you. And just as it's Thanksgiving today, although we don't celebrate it, but a lot of,
Yeah.
gratitude.
Yeah,
Gratitude is
absolutely.
nice vibration. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So thanks. Well, Thanksgiving to God and the angels and the dragons and all our spiritual beings for absolutely supporting us through one of the biggest changes that the planet has ever gone through of how we operate. And even if the people around you are not operating like that, it's your job. That's what you came here to do. Break through the limits of like believing that you're human. All right, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'm going to say good evening. Bye, ladies.